Move 20, it's Tamati Waka Nene. It is a oil on canvas painting by Gottfried Lindauer made in 1890. Lots of context is that this was made in New Zealand, which is comprised of two islands here off the coast of Australia, and it's in Polynesia. The Maori people are who settled these two islands in 1200 CE, and their connection to Europe is that Captain Cook visited these islands 3 times, and from the visiting by Captain Cook, there was this desire for trade and the spread of Christianity. And when the trade between the Europeans and the Maori people got going, it was muskets that were traded, a lot of muskets. And the Maori people, who were pretty divided at the time, had like 3,000 different conflicts involving muskets. And so this is called the Musket Wars, this period where they were fighting over land, over old issues. So the Musket Wars were settled by a treaty called the Treaty of Waitangi, and that treaty involved this man, Tamati Wakanene, who was a chief, getting all of the other 500 or so chiefs, Maori chiefs, to agree to sign the treaty. And it was the British government that kind of stepped in to facilitate this, but they also won because the British got control over New Zealand, and the Maori chiefs had also hoped that their culture would be preserved. So that's something that is still being worked out between the Maori people and the British who came in and took over New Zealand. So Tamati Wakanene, if you look pretty closely at the image here, there's lots to talk about with it, but just want to share that that image is something that Europeans were interested in seeing. They wanted to see this noble savage image. And so Henry Partridge was a European who came to New Zealand, and he commissioned the artist Gottfried Lindauer to paint a lot of Maori in their traditional attire. And Partridge purchased a lot of Gottfried Lindauer's works, but they were also displayed here at the 1886 Colonial and Indian Exhibition in Britain. And you can see here South Australia. This was where all of this Pacific work was shown. And you can see over here paintings. Some of Lindauer's paintings were here. And there's a stuffed kangaroo. So Europeans were very curious about the indigenous people. So the function of this piece is that it was made for European consumers of portraits who wanted portraits or paintings of these kind of exotic people, these so-called noble savages. So the form, this piece was actually created long after the death of Tamati Wakanene, well, 20 years after his death. This is an image, a photograph taken of Tamati Wakanene in 1871 in the newspaper describing his life. And then Gottfried Lindauer painted him based on that picture, that photograph, and painted him not in European attire, but in Maori attire. And so the cloak is super special. This is a kahu kiwi cloak. It's made out of the feathers of a kiwi bird. And the kiwi bird feathers, they have this mana in them, right? The power of the bird is in that cloak. So it is a sign of a lot of prestige. Only chiefs could wear a kiwi feather cloak, and their Gottfried Lindauer is kind of appealing to British tastes or European tastes. More form, Lindauer's got Tamati holding a hand weapon, a tuwatawa, and in that weapon is the abalone or Powie eye. It's a shell of an abalone, and it's the eye of the ancestor featured here. He also, in terms of form, has a greenstone earring that is a traditional earring worn by Maori people, and he has the intricate facial tattoo, the moko, featured in this painting. So that's all form. Then what does all of this mean? That's the content here. So for the Maori, a photograph, a carving, or a painting of someone is not just an image of them, it is the embodiment of them. And so it's very valuable. It's treated with care, reverence. When people visit these paintings at the museum, they could go there to cry to them, to ask them advice, to talk to them, and really draw on the essence of the mana, the mana of these people captured in this portrait. So let's talk about the content of the tattoos, the moko. So those are also associated with mana. They have the power of the person in the carving on the face. This is a sacred art. It's not an art that everybody got, every Maori person. It was someone who had status, that had most of the most of these tattoos. You can see that they're curving shaped, they're spirals, and that's pretty common. But there is a fair amount of discussion about what these all mean. Some say that it indicates social status or their role in society. Some say that it has kind of their genealogy, their whole family history wrapped up in those moko. They are not punctured tattoos. They are carved into the person's skin, chiseled with these alabaster combs or chisels that you see here. And we see here in this carving that was done out of wood that would have been placed on a canoe, that just shows us again the image of a chief. These carvings, moko, would have been done at the transition from adolescence to adulthood. For men, the moko was on their face or on their buttocks, and for women, the moko was on their lip and the chin. Here's an image of it on the buttocks. It is reviving in popularity now. The Prime Minister of New Zealand has a moko on her lip, bottom lip, and chin. So this is the piece Tamati Waka Nene by Gottfried Lindauer, oil on canvas, created in 1890.